Thursday, We the People edition. Jenny
All
Swiggert's here.
right.
So it must be we continue to address the issues and solve the issues between rural and urban America, which means there are really no issues left. Jenny Swigert checking in from school.
Yes,
Are you
sir.
How's school going?
It's going well. I came into the classroom with 2 newborn chicks, so that's really awesome. Our animal science kids are working on that. And then we're building in the shop, teaching a lot about the safety, and the kids are having a great time with all of that. So, and there's tons more stuff that we're doing too. But it's good. And then I decided I wanted to have Tracy back last week.
Fire alarm Tracy.
Fire alarm Tracy. And I don't remember like what triggered it, but it was like a week ago Wednesday or something. What were you doing? Something, I don't know. You were doing something exciting, which Tracy Cotton always is doing something exciting and enjoying the journey. My necklace says enjoy the journey, and my necklace came from Tracy.
Oh, nice. I don't have a necklace from Tracy. Tracy Cotton from Chattanooga, Tennessee. You know, you said something just before we went live that you have learned more about Chattanooga. I've been to Tennessee twice this past summer, and Tennessee's got a lot of things going on. It seems like Tennessee continues to be geared to be part of the solution.
I would really like to think so. And that's probably one of the reasons why I'm really glad to be back in Tennessee. Of course, it's my home state, but I spent over 20 years in North Carolina. Love North Carolina. It was a fantastic experience and time to be able to spend there. But I just really like Tennessee. And I think that it's a little closer to my faith as well as perhaps just my values.
And your family too, correct?
And my family. And that's been the biggest bonus. I get to see them. I get to see my parents just about every few weeks now. And it was usually only a couple of times a year before. So.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. So what is it that why don't you give kind of a brief synopsis of what you are doing now that you are in Tennessee?
When I decided, and it's been a year now, I literally just this past weekend celebrated a year in Chattanooga.
I was wondering.
Yeah, okay. It's been a year. During the pandemic, I really loved what I was doing, and Jenny knows that it was something I was very passionate about because I got to not only do insurance because that's something I've been doing for most of my life, but I was able to pair it with something that I equally loved, which was farm and food. And that was a great experience. I spent better part of 8 years really delving in and really having a good time and spending a good amount of time. Like literally, it was like eat, breathe, sleep, insurance, and farm to fork. When I came to Tennessee, I knew that I probably couldn't bring that with me. And it's one of those things. It's just, in a career, that a lot of times, sometimes to make that translate for another location, another situation.
Yeah.
And instead, because I had a vast knowledge of insurance, I was able to come into another 100-year-old agency, which is great. I love being part of an independent insurance agency that they're based out of Calhoun, Georgia. They have really great values. They are very focused on their people and their customer base. And that was a good fit. They just didn't need somebody to be doing farm insurance for them. So instead, I actually work directly with one of the vice presidents that happens to be a fantastic sales guy. He could sell ice to Eskimos. And I get to focus instead on taking care of his clients in a level that they were used to from him without him having to be present all the time. And we still have a service team that takes care of most of the paperwork and most of those really fine detail types of things that have to go in behind the scenes in what goes into a big, an insurance policy. But I get to have the fun of really kind of running interference between my boss and what he's trying to do, as well as making sure that his clients are taken care of. I like to think of it as a concierge of insurance. And it's been great, as well as just a wonderful thing to have a change of pace and really get to have a new beginning in Tennessee.
So, Tracy, since you joined us last, what you reminded us was in July. there was this big internet myth that was growing. And in fact, I got called from New York one day to do a video segment on the news about farmers destroying crops. And that was totally internet myth. But there's one component of that that would be a reason that farmers would destroy crops, and that would be crop insurance. And particularly in our part of the world, we have hail every single year. And then the insurance company was getting beat up on that, which I don't know if you want to talk about crop insurance because it's highly subsidized, but just insurance. You know, I've always said, and I think I told you last time, insurance seems to be like flea collars. They only work if you don't need them. But what is the overall state of the insurance business as it relates to farmers today? Because I just don't know what to think about it.
I think that there's still a lot of interest within the different carriers to want to continue. They see it as something that's still profitable enough, especially on the P&C side. The crop insurance side is what it is because of the government. And that part right there makes it a difficult sell. There's agencies out there that I know that over the years have just said, you know what, we're getting out of this crop insurance business entirely because we're not making any money at it. And it's not like the rest of the things we do. We have 55 forms to fill out. We're still having to fax things in, dinosaur things. And I mean, who does that? And because of the government involvement in it, and some of them just decided to get out of it entirely. But for those who've stuck with it, it still can be a profitable thing. And it's one that has to be well managed. They have their issues as well, but overall, most of the carriers that I know that our agency does business with, even though that's not something that I'm actively writing the business on, I know that we still have carriers that are still looking. They're still after trying to, and they're trying to compete. And a lot of them are obviously trying to compete against some of the ones that have been around forever. There's the Farm Bureau in most states that also can be the insurance end and the arm in a lot of states. However, in some states, the insurance arm is under Farm Bureau, but it's actually run by Nationwide. Nationwide is actually the insurance arm of several states' Farm Bureaus. And it's
country finance, or yes. I guess it's just country now.
Yeah, country now. So there's some that have that kind of that dual type of role, but they have had such a stronghold for so long in the industry that some of these other ones are kind of coming up, and some of them don't know what they're doing. Is the only thing that's frustrating, is because I see carriers pop up and they're like, oh, we want to write farms, but we only want this, this, and this. And it's like, yeah, do you even know what state you're in? Because this is a state where these are not even things you're going to find very often. You're going to find smaller farms that are going to be more diversified. They may even have some agritourism on them. Oh, no. And
we can't insure people.
We can't insure people. We can't insure, but and some of it, of course, that's the Wild West when it comes to agritourism. But that's really the overall is there's just a lot of, I think, confusion out there. It doesn't make it easier for the consumer. That's why very often a consumer, if I'm a farmer, I may stay with the same. I've got a guy. I'm going to stay with that same guy forever because I don't know if there's anything else out there. These other companies don't seem to know me, and even though I might not be getting the best care, maybe I'm just not even feeling it. I don't know if I've even got the right coverage. Nobody's ever talking to me about anything new, and there may be some new things that they need to talk to me about, like pollution. That's kind of an issue nowadays. Those are things that happen on certain farms that they need to be cared for, but they just don't know, and it's not working still.
Well, I have 1 minute left in this segment, and I want to go back to something you brought up, because there's an ever-growing number of people that think that agritourism is their supplementation that's going to keep them in business. And I absolutely was at the best-run agritourism operation I've ever been a part of, which they have one in North Carolina and one in Ohio, and that was Henry Hampton with the farm. The day I was there 2 weeks ago in Ohio, they had 3,000 people that came to this farm. And there's a lot of people that want to dive into this, but they don't think about the liability aspect. How severe is it?
It's completely severe. I mean, when you say, you could lose the farm over it, you literally could. Most folks that farm, I mean, they're more concerned with the crop side, or they're concerned about maybe their machinery or somebody getting hurt, their actual employees, because that happens as well. But then they decide to have 3,000 people out, and it sounds like a really good idea at $10 a head. until you start thinking about all those people not knowing what they're doing, not being prepared, and maybe you're not prepared either. It's a science almost, and the people who are really doing well at it, and I think probably have a good head on their shoulders about it, are the ones that have been doing it for enough years that they recognize they have to have good insurance and they have to have good risk management in place if they're going to have that kind of number of people on their farm.
Yeah, I have to go to a break, and all of the people that want to pet the buffalo, the bison are not that friendly, folks. That's the key.
No.
Lone Creek Cattle Company does not have bison, but does have tender beef. We know that because of the MARC data from the USDA Meat Animal Research Center in Clay Center, Nebraska. The research has been done. Now what we need to do is increase the supply of tender beef, thanks to the myostatin gene of the Piedmontese cattle. If you'd like to be a part of a supply chain that gets rewarded properly as a percentage of the consumer's food dollar, get a hold of Marlon Will. Do that at LoneCreekCattleCo.com. We'll be back with more Farm to Fork. Tracy Cotton, Jenny Swigert, after this.
Oh, it's so funny when you're like tight on time. He just starts talking so fast.
Gotta keep track of my clock. Oh, I got a text from Jenny. Says, I'm right here. I can hear you. Coming back in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. Roll Route. Trent Loose alongside Jenny Swigert, making fun of me during the break for keeping on the clock. Tracy Cotton, she never makes fun of anybody. She's just polite. She's got those Tennessee manners.
And that accent. Oh, my goodness. I could listen to you talk all day.
Yeah, but she has a hybrid accent between North Carolina and Tennessee now. You can hear both.
You can hear both?
Yeah.
I try to moderate if possible. I know that it's sometimes it's difficult. There's a language, and Siri has no idea what I'm saying. None.
Really?
No.
That's awesome.
Siri has no Southern filter, apparently. There's no y'all.
That's strange.
Y'all. No.
There's a lot of the U.S. that uses y'all. I use y'all a lot. And I think that's got to go to Texas. I think Texas owns that. You just stole that.
I don't think we did. However, I will tell you that about 10 years ago, I was traveling for insurance. I was a consultant, and I got to travel all over the U.S. I got to spend a lot of time out west in California, Washington State, and everywhere I went, they said, "Are you from Texas?" And I'm like, "Is that the only Southern accent you know?"
I know, exactly.
There's a whole lot more to it.
Oh,
and I love Texas, but I don't think I sound like I'm from Texas.
Tracy, no matter where I go, wearing a hat, if you're anywhere, oh, where in Texas are you from? Yeah, like north 1,500 miles. It's called Nebraska.
Nebraska.
But then once in a while, I'll be in Texas, and I'm like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, down here at Bastrop, Texas.
That's too funny.
So I think we covered that, but covered the people on the farm, and from a liability standpoint, it's just, I think a lot of people are afraid to do it because of that. They're afraid of what might happen, because there are people that were just looking for a reason to win a lottery.
Yeah.
And I would tell you from experience, because I've gotten to volunteer on a lot of farm tour days. I got to spend some time doing that every year, while I was still in West North Carolina. And it was so fun to see people come out and have that very first experience on the farm. A lot of times they would be coming in from, maybe they were from Asheville, but maybe they were coming in from Charlotte or someplace else. Mm-hmm. And somebody posted up something about agritourism. I wanted to catch that too, but I loved seeing how excited people were to be out. And especially in 2020, we knew that a lot of people were starting to try to get out just because they needed to get outside. They were desperate to get outside, and maybe they weren't going to be out hiking and doing all that kind of stuff, but they wanted to be out. And farms were the idea. They were away from a city. They felt like there was fresh air. And I think that there are a lot of people that are excited about it. And I want to see that opportunity. And I recognize there is money to be made. I just want people to be careful and recognize that these people don't know what they're doing. You go load them up on that hayride. You need to make sure that they know, you don't lean over a certain, you make sure that everything's safe distance, and that they've got, good good practices in mind, whoever's driving. And I think that there's a lot of fun to be had, and I definitely wouldn't. But there was somebody that was talking about, I was trying to see if I could see, and I can't see what they said, but
oh no,
but the idea of
Sue.
separate, I think that somebody was talking about trying to kind of separate it, and that's not a bad idea, because you don't want people right on your front doorstep, because then they'll show up at other times of the day. Like I had a cheesemaker that it said clearly on the end of the little road, their road off the road would say open such and such hours, but because people had ever been there before, people would just like drive on down on a Sunday, on a 7:00 on a weekday or whatever it was, and they wouldn't pay attention, because once they'd ever been there, then they felt like they were welcome. And that's the
So I've actually had an entire radio program about that with Brett and Lauren Farmeyer, and I've been waiting for Lauren to pipe up here because she frequently joins us. They have exactly that in Missouri, and they had started with a you pick strawberry patch, and now it's expanded to, this time of year, pumpkin season, and the fall is a big agritourism time of year.
Yeah.
But they're to the point where 365 days a year, somebody might just show up at their front door wanting to buy fresh, go pick their own strawberries in January, and it's like, when you do this at your house, you're going to be on guard all the time. You're always on call. It's kind of like having one. My favorite hotel or motel, by the way, is those little ones that people live in, and you have to go in from the outside, and you park your pickup right in front of your door. And I think about that. It doesn't matter whether somebody shows up at 9:00 or at 2:30 in the night. You got to get up and go answer the door and get them a room key. Well, the agritourism business, if you live there, is the same way. That's crazy. And you probably don't think about that when you think this is going to be a good diversification for us.
Exactly. Somebody had also in the chat box had asked about LLCs. And even though I'm not an attorney and I don't pretend to talk for them on that, LLCs are a really good idea. You should always, look at that from the perspective of, for that matter, I mean, just, you might want to divide certain parts of your business up between your personal house and the rest of your farm. There's things that can be done from that. There's a lot of benefits to that from tax perspectives as well as protection, but it is not in itself a protection from somebody suing you. And so having LLCs, or in states that actually let you put up the agritourism liability sign that says, if you come on my farm, you could be subject to whatever. It's not really says that. It's literally all it's doing is taking a coffee cup and saying this coffee is hot. And that's great. And it gives them a little bit of protection in the fact that somebody can't say, I didn't know that when I came out to your farm, I might get stung by a bee, or I might fall down a hill, or that, that I might have something happen to me. There's animals here, but it doesn't protect them from getting actually, sued, and, or perhaps being liable for something because they really did put somebody in harm's way accidentally. And that's why they need insurance. So the LLC does not do the full protection. It is another layer of protection.
So I have a question. We had a cabin that here in our area that people used to rent. We used to rent. We would have a big, huge fish fry for our friends and family every year. And then one year a family had rented it for I don't know, family reunion or something like that. And someone fell down the stairs. And the insurance, I believe, of the person I think it was a child that fell down the stairs, that insurance policy, and so then they sued the people who owned the cabin. At least that's what I was told occurred. So it's almost like a catch-22, and the insurance companies are battling one another when the medical bills were high. So I can understand that, but it just doesn't seem, it's not, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Far too often, Tracy, you have to get an attorney to sue your insurance company to follow through on what they sold you insurance to do.
Yes.
It's definitely one of those things where you really need to understand what you have. And that's probably the biggest thing, because you could have something that sounds really good, but it could have the one exclusion could be the one thing that you want to do. and even if you say, okay, well, I'm going to start having people out to my farm, or we're going to start doing some things, and there's no protection against lawsuits. But you say you want to have people come out to your farm, and then one day it sounds like a good idea that you had weddings right beside your pond because it was picturesque. And then you had a bride that said, what if we all went swimming afterwards? And you were like, sure, no problem. Swimming. That's a whole nother kettle of fish, if you will. And that might be the one thing that you might have a line item somewhere in there that says that it protects this, this, and this, but not that. And that's one of those things that I think that, if you're not having those kind of discussions and you don't really know where you're at with it, and that's why some people will just shy away entirely, because they don't want to try to get into something and they don't want to understand it. And I get it. They just want to either be covered or they want to not do it at all. And I don't blame them.
Jerry Rowe from Indiana brings up something that I want to explore a little bit too. And we only have 2 minutes, just so you know. Even if you don't invite them, is there a liability aspect if somebody's trespassing on your property, and the bull gets them down, whatever the case may be?
So this is something that has been, there's a lot of law that's gone out there as far as there's been court cases over this. We've literally seen that there's been instances where somebody was trespassing with ill intentions. It was not, it was not just accidentally, which, happens. You run into cases where somebody's hunting and they don't recognize but a lot of times you got a big no trespassing sign and somebody still decides, I want to see what's over there because that's really pretty. And there's protection for that. They're definitely going to defend. Your insurance company is going to defend on that because you've done everything you could to try to prevent somebody from just wandering in and possibly getting into an area that could be unsafe, especially. Like when you put a no trespassing sign up, maybe it's not just because you don't want people on your property. That's the number one reason, but it's also because you know that you don't want that bull to get out. And if they try to cross that line, what are you going to do?
And if you're in the Appalachian USA, you might have marijuana growing in there illegally or moonshine, and you don't want people finding your still. That's the bottom line. We got to go to a break. Protect the Harvest is working every single day to make sure that you have all of the information needed to protect yourself and your property rights. Teresa Lucas, by the way, she lives in Tennessee. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not, but she is a main component behind the endeavor Protect the Harvest, continuing to be a zealot for property rights. Get details about your involvement at protecttheharvest.com. We're back with more of the second half. Maybe we should move away from putting Tracy Cotton on the fire stand for all insurance claims after this.
I'm used to it.
Back in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. Rural Route, Trent Lewis alongside Jenny Swaggart, Tracy Cotton. I will let you respond if you like, because I assessed that all Appalachian farmers have a moonshine still and or a marijuana patch in their property that they're protecting. That's not true. That's an embellishment, Tracy.
It's a complete embellishment. Although you can legally grow marijuana plants in North Carolina now. I'm not really sure what Tennessee laws are yet. I haven't found that out.
You can in Illinois.
You can make moonshine too.
I don't doubt that.
You can. You just can't sell it.
You just can't sell it.
Right. You want to know something really strange? I usually have like 4 coffee cups I rotate that I just grab off the shelf every morning. And then there's some in the back that I don't always grab. Today, for whatever reason, I just noticed this while you were talking. I happen to have grabbed this Tennessee coffee cup that I have not used for a long time. How ironic is that?
That is totally ironic.
I know. What's the best part of Tennessee in your mind?
Okay, so Nashville's a nice place to visit, but I just wouldn't want to live there. It's a great place to go for a conference now or go for a concert. I know that I'm going to a concert weekend after next up there, and it'll be fine. I'm so glad that I don't live there. My sister lives out in West Tennessee, and I've had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time out there now. And I grew up kind of like avoiding that area because I didn't like Memphis, but there's a lot of awesome land outside of Memphis. It's a gorgeous area. I just got through talking to a farm insurance agent. I talked to a farm insurance agent just recently that's out in West Tennessee, and we had a great conversation. It was fun just to talk about what he's seeing, and it was, that was a lot of fun. But I'm just a little partial to Chattanooga and East Tennessee. Can't help it.
I actually spoke for the Tennessee Cattlemen in
Oh, sorry.
In July in Sevierville, and it only took me like 3 weeks to say it right. But anyway, Sevierville. Anyway, man alive, did they turn those hills and hollers into an economic boon for that area? I can't believe what they get for a hotel room, but it's a lovely place to visit.
And that's, as somebody who's also, I'm a very outdoorsy, and I love getting out and hiking and backpacking, kayaking, paddleboarding. I'm not a big fan of what we've seen in some of East Tennessee and West North Carolina, where recreation and tourism has nothing to do with farming. It has everything to do with taking a mountainside and putting more and more houses up it, or taking a really beautiful, pristine lake and let's throw houses all the way up to the shore of it. It's not my favorite thing. And so anytime I can find a place that's not like that, I'm really excited about it. And there's still some places around that aren't, but let me tell you, Gatlinburg, Sevierville, that whole area, I grew up going there. That was where we would go for like little weekend getaways, because I grew up in Nashville, and that was the mountains. And I loved it. I wanted to live there. That's how I kind of ended up in Western North Carolina, is I wanted to live in the mountains. That was a dream of mine. And I get a little sick sometimes seeing just how much has been. But once you get into the park, you get up to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, they've done a great job of trying to preserve with, as little damage as possible. And they are that particular park has the most visitors of any national park in the whole United States. And that's above Yellowstone, that's above Grand Canyon, that's above all of it. The Great Smoky Mountains I can't even tell you how many visitors. And this past year was probably even more because of it being within driving distance of a lot of where the eastern seaboard is. You've got your Atlanta, you've got, for that matter, New York City. People come from all over. You look in tags when you're up in Tennessee, you never know where you're going to see a tag from, but it's mostly, the surrounding states. And it was a good getaway. And let me tell you, it was, I think they had some challenges because they just weren't expecting people to come back in such droves after having, been gone for a while during 2020 and then just start coming back. It's because people wanted to get out. And some of those trails and some of the actual park itself, they've really, really struggled to try to keep it from being overrun by the sheer numbers of people wanting to get out and enjoy it, if that makes any sense.
12.4 million in 2020.
Okay.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, you didn't embellish that at all. But I think you bring up a great point, because I'd heard about Gatlinburg. I'd heard about that whole region. I did not know that it had commercialized so much and really urbanized, even though it still got that Smoky Mountain feel. But it comes back to property rights. When those folks want to do something with that property that they see fit, and clearly people like it because it was packed. It was crazy, the number of people there. They got this phenomenal water park and convention centers, and I got lost. It was 1:30 in the morning trying to find my hotel, and there were 3 different places I thought I was supposed to be. It's just this mecca. No. That's what made it even more embarrassing. Had there been moonshine, it would have been better. But I'm like you. I don't want to see this type of activity in the middle of a great nature. But people come, and that's what people want to do with that property. So I can't be critical of them.
But I have a lot, like I said, there's a lot of Tennessee that I think that people are starting to enjoy, and because of the centrality of it and where it's located, it just is, it's a good place to come visit. And a lot of people are moving here because we don't have an actual income tax. There's not a state income tax, although the sales tax is sizable. The income tax is not there. It's for people coming from California. Of course, they can sell their house and they can get something just as nice or nicer for a fraction of the cost, even though it's really expensive to us. It's not to them. And we're not the only ones. We're not the only ones, that are in that same. There's lots of other places that are fun. But particularly Chattanooga, what we've seen is we started advertising ourselves out. I say we, as in the city did, as being gig city. And so because we've got really very, very strong internet within the city and, Hamilton County, people are moving here because they can work from home. And this is a great hub because, again, they're close enough that they can be in Nashville or Knoxville or Atlanta, or they're within 500 miles of a lot of the United States. Mm-hmm. I've got a direct flight on Saturday morning from Chattanooga to Detroit. I can't even tell you the last time I took a direct flight anywhere, because in Asheville, there is no such thing unless you're directly going to Charlotte or directly going to Atlanta. But I got a direct flight to Detroit. I mean, and that's a city that's obviously trying to be a hub of sorts.
Or speaks to how hard they try to get people to fly again.
Yeah, there's that too.
Well, that's a very good point. We really like the land between the lakes area, and that is partially in Tennessee, right?
It is over on the west
Kentucky.
Side. Yep.
Okay, yeah, that just beautiful, beautiful place.
And that was, some of that stuff was formed naturally, and some of it was a little man-made, but they've really tried to manage it well, and they've had really good quality work with bringing species in. You can see bald eagles. It's a beautiful area.
Somebody's farm was taken from them to build those lakes.
I know.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
One thing, Tracy, that you mentioned early on that just you have to admire about Tennessee, you threw the word faith in there. Tennessee has never wavered from its roots and being a very Christian-based, faith-oriented state.
That's what I think about it, at least. And for me, that was something that's been probably the biggest blessing for me. I had a church in Western North Carolina that I had gone to off and on for years. And, I've had my own journey, and, it's not always been a pretty one, but I, in the last couple of years, had really been, trying to really kind of restore my faith and really work on that because it was important to me. And when I moved to Chattanooga, I was, going to be looking for a church. I had spent the last however much time it was, at the end of 2020, either watching online or strictly being outdoors. And I got here on a Friday, moved in, got the moving vans, and somebody had suggested a church to me. And I showed up there on Sunday morning, and it was the first time I'd been inside of a church. And this was the first week of October of last year. And I've been there ever since. And that particular church has become such a base for me because they really have fed me in a lot of ways that I wasn't expecting. I knew that I would find community, and I was hopeful that I would find, some other good resources, people who kind of connect me to people that I could trust, or that I would maybe be able to develop friendships and good business relationships with even. But one of the things that's been really kind of interesting is the fact that that church, it's Calvary, and it starts with the C, and there's a little C that we put on our vehicles if you want to, kind of thing. And people see that. And the joke was about it at Christmas of last year because of the sheer number of people that were starting to come to the church, because it was one of the only churches in all of Chattanooga that was seeing anybody come inside. They weren't allowing people inside of most churches. And these, Calvary decided that's one of the things that they felt important. They wanted to have people come in. They wanted to have people back in an actual church service again. Although they still allow online. I mean, they're still trying to help people be able to connect that way. And the joke became that we were also the COVID church. Because people were like, oh yeah, did you see that? Did you see that big crowd down there at Calvary? Calvary, are they a cult? Or are they just into COVID? I don't know what that C stands for. I mean, there was jokes about it. And some people didn't know I was even going there, and they were making jokes around me. And I was like, no, it was a posture, and it was a decision. And I mean, we've had a lot of other conservative speakers come in that were not just strictly religious. We've had a lot of good folks that have come in the last few months and really just try to feed people good information. And it's not trying to sway them. I mean, obviously, Christianity is not just Democratic or Republican. It can be anything, but really just trying to give people as much information as possible about what's going on in the country. And I can't even tell you just how awesome that is to be a part of it.
I would say, well, we are the Calvary Church who during COVID did not stray away from Christ. 3 C's for you there, right there. How about
There's
that?
your C. I like it.
Yeah.
Are there other churches that are they open up in general?
It's pretty much all wide open. There was a few that this summer even, that I would pass by and they were still out in their parking lot. And I was like, it's too hot, y'all. I just came back to Chattanooga from the mountains of Western North Carolina. It's hot. It's hot. It's too hot to be out in a parking lot. And most of them had big enough sanctuaries that I really think they could have socially distanced. And everybody's welcome to wear a mask indoors anywhere they want to. There's just not any mandates now, and there haven't been for a long time. So there you go.
We need to take a break. Speaking of Tennessee, it's a great time to talk about Karen Staley from Tennessee, who wrote, produced, and recorded 4 songs for the Arise USA tour. God Save the Cowboy, obviously my favorite, but there's a couple others on there you might like. So go to KarenStaley.com, and for a mere $20, you can get a CD with all, I think it's called an album these days, a digital album. And for a mere $20, you can get them all. KarenStaley.com. Last segment of Rural Route after this.
Oh my goodness. Am I reading that right?
What?
We have pastors across Canada going to jail and getting huge fines.
Where you been, Jenny? That's been happening for 6-7 months. One was speaking last week in Colorado, I think. Back in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. Rural Route, Trent Luce alongside Tracy Cotton. Cotton.
See, I thought Cotton.
At the Calvary, despite COVID, standing up for Christ. How many C's can we put in this sentence?
Can you put in there? And that's been kind of fun. I showed up a couple of years ago at the commodities conference in North Carolina, and I went to get my name tag, and they did not believe that I did not grow or sell or do anything directly with cotton. They were like, I don't understand. So you're, because that's kind of what this commodities conference is about. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm here, but that's just my name. Just the name.
So they thought maybe it was a
Yeah, that was a conversation killer, old Cotton. I'm just saying.
I know.
Cotton prices are up, I think.
Are they? I know that there is a sizable amount of cotton produced in both West Tennessee as well as East North Carolina.
Yeah. Shelby County, Tennessee produces a lot of cotton still.
Yep. I know where Shelby County is.
Earlier on, you had said we, like Chattanooga, were doing some things with the Visitors Bureau, and you actually were. And you were doing some tours of museums, and then you were Instagramming along the way. Can you talk about that a little bit?
There's a really great program that they have in Chattanooga with the Department of Tourism, Office of Tourism. I'm not sure what their official title is. But one of the things that they really wanted to do was to be able to provide a little bit of an incentive for people to become kind of, there's a lot of talk amongst, brands out there on brand ambassadors, that you've got people that within a certain industry, or they have their influencers because they happen to really do great on social media, and they wanted to be able to bring in brand ambassadors for Chattanooga. And to do that, if you attend a certain number of activities and you learn about Chattanooga and you go through a couple of different things, little hoops, you get free tickets to go places, and they do some special things just for their ambassadors. And it's not an official super program. It's not like I have to go show up and volunteer on a regular basis. It's really more about me getting out and me spreading the word about Chattanooga. And, I'm all about that. It's just, that's always been in my wheelhouse. I really, they wouldn't have had to probably incentivize me. I want to be a part of the local, whatever I'm involved in. And then Chattanooga is not any different. And it's been fun just getting out, and there's a lot culturally, historically. It's been a lot of fun, and I get to do some of that.
And there were some museums that I had no idea existed.
Yeah, and the Hunter Museum is one. It's a first-rate art museum. And the interesting thing is, I'm finding historically, is Chattanooga to be like a little city, you think, because it's actually the fourth largest city in Tennessee, which is, I mean, you've got Nashville and Memphis that have always battled it out over each other, Knoxville, and then Chattanooga. And Chattanooga is not going to probably ever get a lot bigger, but they're certainly not getting any smaller. But historically, it's always had a lot of culture and a lot of great history. It's been a hub because of the railroad, which the Chattanooga Choo Choo people hear about, as well as water. We've got folks that come in through the water system here. There's still things being shipped that way, but Coca-Cola down in Atlanta. So that's that's Coca-Cola. Atlanta claims Coca-Cola.
Sure.
Like Atlanta, Coca-Cola, we're tight. But there was some businessmen out of Chattanooga back in the day that had heard about Coca-Cola, and they thought, what would be really great is if we could bottle it. And the folks down in Atlanta were like, oh, that's hilarious. It's a fountain drink. Do you not know that's where we're successful, is in fountains? Fountain drinks, that's where you get a Coke. And they were like, no, we've got a bigger idea. We really think that if we bottle it, that people would buy it bottled. They would love a cold bottle of Coke. And they were like, here, we'll sell you the rights to it for like $1. And it made these guys so rich to start bottling Coca-Cola out of Chattanooga. And some of that money, as it trickled down, Coca-Cola money became things that really supported the culture in the area, like the Hunter Museum. That actually was started from some of the relatives that had been part of that whole thing. So it's,
by the way, Tracy, Coca-Cola was on my naughty list today.
Oh, I don't drink soda as much as anyone myself.
Well, there's several brands.
If you call it pop.
By the way, they include Fairlife in this little dissertation, but they are promoting that they have set a sustainable agriculture guiding principles for their ingredient suppliers, the principles that farmers can apply, working with water and energy management conservation to prevent soil erosion and minimizing greenhouse gas emissions. I'm here to tell you, the farmer does not need Coca-Cola to tell them how to be sustainable.
No.
So, yeah, thank you for walking us into that
Pepsi,
one.
So Pepsi, they have a sustainability, and I can't remember the rest of her title. And she is outstanding, and she grew up on a dairy farm, and she knows what the heck she's talking about. And I don't think I would see something like that from PepsiCo.
No, I'll take your bet.
Coca-Cola, I think, needs to maybe get in contact with some farmers and find someone.
Oh, no, they think they're going to tell farmers what to do, like every other food company on earth.
Well, that's true. That is a huge...
So, speaking of that and transitioning, Tracy, into something positive, what's going on in the farm to fork arena, which we know you love to dabble in the fall? Anything?
I do think that, if at all possible, if you're someplace that you live within a good distance of being able to check out you pick apples.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of great festivals that are out there, and some of them are not on the farms. They're just bringing the farms to you. And that's one of the things that I think is, you see a lot of cities that have done that. There's a lot for Chattanooga, they do a pretty good job of trying to bring in and really they've got one that's a farmer's market that's year round, which that's not always a thing in places, but that they try to get people a little bit closer to it by bringing, farm people in and, get out and do some of that kind of stuff. I really support local. Take a drive out in the country and just see what's out there. And, maybe you'll see a farm side stand, definitely get out and try to spend some dollars and some time and enjoy what's out there if you've got that available. I know that I'm planning on doing some of that this year. I doubt that I'll get to a pumpkin patch this year just because I hate carving them up. It's such a mess.
You can get a kid to do that for you.
I don't have a kid to do that anymore.
You can find a kid to do that for you.
Just find a neighborhood child. I'm going to pay you to carve a pumpkin for me.
There you go. They'll love it. They'll probably pay you. Just
You
tell
think
them to be
so?
creative and make a jack-o'-lantern.
And there's that.
Hey, here's an event that maybe we could all three gather at, because I've always wanted to do this, but never done anything but said I want to do this. March 28th through April 3rd, 2022, Mule Days in Columbia, Tennessee. I know it's not in your back door, but it's not
but
that
it's
far.
close.
Yeah.
It's close.
That sounds like a great time.
Oh, that's a great event. I've heard so much about it through the years.
I've never been. I've got friends that were from that area, and it's I think it's a lot of fun. And I got to go to some of the festivals they had in Bell Buckle, Tennessee, where my parents were living up until just recently. They moved a little farther away because they could, and they had RC Cola Moon Pie, they had Buttercup, they had an arts festival, but they didn't have anything like Mule Days. And I tell you what I do miss, I have to admit, because I spent a lot of years when I was in West North Carolina in a little town called Marion in McDowell County, North Carolina, and I miss Liver Mush. Liver Mush was a festival that we had every June, and they would have a liver mush eating contest. They give out free liver mush sandwiches, and I miss that.
Okay, so this is liver mixed with what?
It's literally like stuff made out of liver.
Braunschweiger?
No, and
No.
so for what I understand, because I didn't grow up with it, the nearest thing to it is scrapple, and I didn't grow up with scrapple either. I had sausage, just regular old sausage. That's what I grew up with, and when we had Rudy's Farm sausage in Tennessee, I mean, that I grew up with ham sausage and pork sausage, but I didn't have liver mush until I got to North Carolina, and it's kind of acquired taste because it's kind of livery. But
liver mush is a southern United States pork product prepared using pig liver and parts of the pig head with cornmeal and spices.
Yep, and it comes out like a patty.
Interesting.
And you can make a sandwich out of it, or you can have it on a biscuit. And some people are very upset about whether or not it's mustard or ketchup or mayonnaise. I have no dog in that fight. It just was a lot of fun.
In North Carolina, wouldn't it have to come with a vinegary barbecue sauce?
Oh, don't pick on my vinegary barbecue sauce. I love some. That's it. But in Tennessee, it's all that sweet, sticky stuff.
I know we went right to the heart of it there.
I want it almost clear. I want some red pepper flakes in it, but I want it almost clear. I love North Carolina barbecue sauce.
You know what, Tracy? I think you're more of a you got more North Carolina in you than Texas or Tennessee. I'm just saying.
I don't know, but there was a lot of what was going on in West North Carolina. I just couldn't abide. I ended up, that was good to come out of it.
It's a Sweet Home Alabama kind of mix where each place fits.
I hope so.
Liver mush with coleslaw. Neil's got it going on right there. Go. That would be awesome.
That is too funny.
All right, 30 seconds. Your profound parting bits of wisdom, Tracy Cotton.
I don't know that I have anything to say other than just that, that it's okay to get out. It's okay to pick your battles where it is that you want to shop and what you want to do business with. But I love the fact that y'all are promoting people really trying to get back and reach their rural roots. I can't talk this morning. Sorry.
Enjoy the journey.
Right.
Enjoy the journey. Jenny's got the right idea.
Well,
I beg to differ. You're talking just fine.
Thanks so much, Jenny. I appreciate you letting me come on.
Oh, it's so great to see you. And hopefully we'll see you in person.
And Trent too.
I'm just here to run the buttons. We've successfully journeyed down the road connecting rural and urban America. All three of us remind you that all roads do lead to a rural route. And you know what? I got the perfect way to take us home today.
Against the greed and hardened hearts trying to take his land. It's gonna take a miracle for him to have a prayer. So God